Good evening, all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your financial market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for the evening of October 12th, Thursday, 2023. Now, tomorrow when I do my updates, I don't know that I'm going to put out one tomorrow night. It might be over the weekend. I have a medical treatment that I have to do. It's a skin treatment, and I'll be in the afternoon getting it done. I do it once, twice a year. I am prone on the sun to problems, and as the fall comes, I have to go in, they treat me, and away you go. I've been doing this for 25 years, so it's nothing that I'm not used to, but I have to go into the dark. So after they do the skin treatment, I'm committed to 48 hours in almost total dark, so got to be very careful. The lights of the camera and all will not go with what I am. I'm very photosensitive after that, and it goes away very rapidly. So don't look tomorrow night for me to put those out. But do look for me to have a world of knowledge, which I'll have, because I watch TV during that time. That I can watch. I have to just be in a lot of dark. And let's talk about what this means. Today's CPI number. When it came out, I think I was the lone person in the world looking at it different than everybody else. And I think I said it. When we did the morning update, I said, I am not seeing where this makes the Fed very happy. You are not looking at core inflation fall. Stable is not falling. The headline number was a bit hot, as were the PPI numbers. So I'm looking at the economy, I guess, through not the rosy glasses that so many people are. I'm looking at it saying to myself, okay, we have gotten to a point where it's stable. It's not climbing, but it's also not falling. Does that take the Fed off path for another rate hike or not? Well, if I were on the Fed board, I can tell you my vote would be to go for the 25 basis point hike. When you stall, you got to take your nail out just like you're a carpenter. You take your nail, you got your hammer, and you go wham, and you go wham. Let's put this down. Why? Because labor is strong as can be and the market can handle it. If you saw the jobless numbers, they're 209,000 claims? I mean, we haven't been under 200 in a while. You're nowhere near the 250 that I think the Fed wants to see. And the continuing claims, well, they're all over the board. They gained another 30,000. Next week, they lose 20. It's not trending. It's not doing one of those. All right. Now, as a markets technician, a chartist, okay, I did a special report because I thought we were making on a seasonal basis trade bottom lows, basis the 30, the 15, and the 5-year charts. The first objective, if I were right, is to get up to the 18-day average of closes. The second thing that I've told my written subscribers, they're way ahead of you in the things I'm telling, was October's often a very volatile month. September's a big down month. Try for transitions right here. What we're going to get now starting tomorrow as well are bank earnings. The big banks start coming up. So we start seeing the profitability, and you shift all over the place because stock indices are made up of stocks. And we start seeing what they're going to do. So expect your volatility. You're in that time frame. As for the U.S. dollar, it gained dramatically on that. A couple other things happened today. The U.S. Treasury, again, it's every day. They go to the market and they tried to sell 30-year T-bills, 30-year bonds. It was terrible. 20% of what they were offering was taken. So what's taking place here is the market wants a higher yield. That all makes sense given what's going on in the world stage, of course. But the simple fact is that as much as we fell back from 4.9% roughly on the 10-year and came all the way down to the 4, 5, 6, the market could easily go back up and have to add yield to sell more of what the Treasury wants to do. When you and I take a look at the S&P on a weekly basis, you still should have a downside bias as you're underneath 4452, let's call it, which is the 18-week average of closes. I decided to put on, yesterday I had you visualize some Fibonacci numbers. So I went today and I said, why should I have you visualize? I'll connect the approximate highs and lows, and what you're looking for is the first retracement on Fibonacci in a bearish trade. It's 38%. Middle road is 50, then after that, 62. Tell me what you got to. Remember what I said yesterday here. I said, I think we're at that first Fibonacci leg, and you probably are going to stall right there. Well, when you take a look at the chart, you certainly came up and you got this big outside day down today. An outside day either says you're going to get a continuation pattern or the potential that the market's going to stall on you or reverse that pattern. It's generally not a reversal signal, but it can go against it. This is certainly not a continuation pattern. Where the trap comes in my thinking, is if the highs of today are taken out on Friday or Monday. Those are the trap days. After that, I don't care if it's taken out. Those 2 days can spring a bear trap. Bearish, why? Well, the market came down. So I'm thinking the market has to retrace. And guess which number I'm looking for the retracement to? You hit it, the 18-day average of closes. We started off on a pretty positive signal. You went down to 43.55.50. The 18-day average, 43.56. I was looking for the retracement to it. I got it almost instantly, as you can see. Okay. If you take out today's high as a technician because you have the bias since you're over the 18-day average, the next moving average, and there happens to be one over, there always isn't, it's 44.70.75. That would be the number. So where's that darn Bollinger Band that the market 95% of the time pays attention to? I know where it's at. It's marching down. And suddenly it's at 40, what is the number here? 44.40. Got a 44.39.50. So that is the closest resistance. That's where the market, if it goes up through today's highs, should have the resistance. On the way down, this is your support. You're already in it, in that 43.50 area. What about momentum? You're overbought, not trying to embed. So to correct an overbought condition, one of two situations has to happen. Either the market spends time going nowhere and that number comes down, it breaks, or it embeds. It's actually three potential choices, not two. Two of them are similar. If it's going to embed, both these numbers have to get up over 80, and the only way you're going to do it is running to the upside and challenging those numbers and maybe getting through them. The more likely event is the market wants to come down and hug into that 18-day average for a while and consolidate everything that's going on. Did I not say consolidation would be a phase? That's where I think we're at. What about in the NASDAQ? Overbought, got up to and this has been the strongest market because the Magnificent Seven have been the leaders of the market in technology. And if you get my morning subscriber video, I've been saying the NASDAQ is where the strength is, and I went through it both in the ETF and in the futures part, showing that that's where the traders are buying things. It's the AIs, it's all that's leading that parade. Well, you got up to the Bollinger Band 100-day average, and you're stalling out. Where could the market end up? If it wants to break, back down here. I think it has a lot of trouble if it tries to add from here right now. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's very difficult to get through the first challenge of a 100-day average in a Bollinger Band when you're overbought. In the Dow, now the battleground's right here. 18-day average, exactly what I wanted it to do. We didn't make it up to the 200. You still have the argument on every one of the stock indices that the October 4th low is a trade bottom low so far. And in the Russell, the question is, what do? You already got to where I wanted it to go. Remember the 18-day average. The only market that didn't make it that far, back down to it is the NASDAQ. All the others rallied to this, and this is where they're stalling a little bit. Are you going to get underneath this? Well, you might. What's been the weakest of the markets all the way through? It has certainly been the Russell. It would be a very good, strong move if the market didn't take out these lows. I'll keep my eye on it. You could get back there. It doesn't change my thesis that you're in a zone. but this is the weakest of the stock indices. Traders keep saying, oh, the Russell's going to come alive. No, it isn't. It's got a long way to go. No, it isn't. In the time of high interest rates and maybe staying there for a long time, these smaller cap companies, interest rates kill them. It's not their friend, it's their enemy. So I'm not with you on that, those that think that. Then we get to the interest rates. Now remember, the lower you go, that's when interest rates are going up. It's an inverse market in these. Well, all you did is you had a bear market rally, you carried up to the 18-day average, and you're fighting a battle. Huge outside data to the downside, a sign, if you took my outside day course, that you've ended this rally phase, but you have not begun a breaking phase. There's a huge difference when that happens. This is a sign that you've run into the stall number. Now, that all comes apart in my thinking if you take out today's high on Friday or Monday. Then I think you're going higher, and that means interest rates going lower. But I don't see any reports coming out that can make that happen. I think we've gotten through them, and now the debate comes, should the Fed actually make a move November 1st? That's where I think the battleground's going to be. 5-year notes, same thing. And all of a sudden, Bollinger Bands coming in, you're trying to consolidate in this market. So we get to the dollar index. You had lost the bullish embedded reading. At the end of this, I'm going to show you again my ad on Bollinger Bands. Folks, the best thing you could do is learn about them. You may not agree, but you'll understand what other traders are looking at, and the combination of momentum with them is honestly powerful as can be. So you lose the reading. Where do I think you're going when you lose a reading? I'll teach you why that happens in the course. I think you're going to go down to the 18-day average and try to consolidate. Kaboom, kaboom, and whammo. You got there yesterday, actually Tuesday. Here's Wednesday, and here you're playing your game. You don't believe what I'm saying? And we're calling this ahead of time. I know it's like the old Johnny Carson in the shows on TV. Karnak, can you bend that spoon? That is what this is similar to. It's magic. It's funny, but it is. It's magic in its own way. It takes into account psychology, other people understanding momentum, and it puts it together. So now the dollar has to decide, can it go anywhere? More likely than anything, what's happening is you're forming a trading range. Do you notice you're suddenly starting to go straight again in these Bollinger Bands and sideways? That's important. You might be spinning in here for a bit right now. In the eurocurrency, you lost the bearish embedded reading. And when you did, you went to the 18-day average, had your outside day. Now it's the flip-flop of what's going on in the dollar. In the British pound, you lost the bearish embedded reading. You took off for the 18-day average. You're spinning right there. That's exactly what you're doing in that. Bitcoin is still bearish. Why is Bitcoin not moving in this? I read an article and I write about it tonight. The SEC, I think, has one more week to decide, is it going to attack the ruling that was favorable? I think it's the Grayscale Trust. So do they allow a fund, because this can open up the door to everything, then you don't have to have a futures market backing an ETF. These guys can just use their fund. That takes away all the SEC control. I mean, the whole shoot and caboodle. Stocks, all the companies have to pay attention to SEC rules and so on. Crypto exchanges are not really, and a lot of them aren't even based in America. They don't have to pay attention. What are you going to do? How does the SEC or the CFTC gain control? This is a big argument that they've had. And at the crux of it is that futures are controlled by the exchange that the CFTC runs, their rules, and so on. What do you do with these others that don't need it, and yet they're listed on American markets as ETFs, and where's your control? We'll see what the SEC does. You might say, well, why didn't they challenge it earlier? Why? Put it near, they can't operate right now, Grayscale. So each day they wait, and then they do their part. You delay to the very end. That's when you make your filing. If you've ever wanted to make your enemy crazy, you wait always to the end. You don't do anything early on. And they consider non-regulation events their enemy. Brent versus WTI, wow, that moved out pretty big to that 414 level. Do you remember we were sitting here in the 360s for the longest period, and once you cleared this and stayed over it, that was the key. You just tore to the upside. Now when we take a look in the January Brent, the market's got trend down, well, to a degree. It's got lower highs, but it has a higher low. So I can't call it a downtrend. I call it nothing. The bias is down. When I come to the same thing here in the WTI, not really. You do have lower highs, lower lows. So this is bearish and very oversold, but still bearish. And do you remember when the invasion happened, well, I shouldn't say it that, when the war began with Hamas, when they crossed the border and made the attacks on Israel, and energy shot up? I said, folks, please do your history. Unless wells are hurt in some manner, there's a history where oil price doesn't react the way you think. And you got to go back and study these things. Heating oil. I'm naturally bullish in the wintertime because there's going to be demand for heating oil. And so I know the demand factor. The question is the supply factor. We had a bunch of numbers that came out over the past 2 days in API and EIA. If you get my full research, I cover it tonight in phenomenal detail. A lot of facts, a lot showing you there. I'm not going to spill the beans here. I'll keep it for my newsletter. And in the nat gas, okay, are we going to embed or not? That's really the question. If it embeds, I think you're going higher. If it doesn't, it corrects by breaking, getting rid of the overbought condition. You're right there. The battlegrounds, the 200-day average to the Bollinger Band. That is what the market's fighting at to make the determination. So you put it together, and as I said, I want you to learn Bollinger Bands. It's important you do. How do you do it? I have a course. It's 13 or 14 chapters, I think, all video. You get with it, the charting software, past data, so you can see what the charts I was doing as to why. Then you're going to get 2 weeks access to my morning subscriber video and my ETF videos in the morning included with it. I also throw in my full research, so you get all my writing. You get more than the course costs for the couple of weeks than it is that people pay me for the research and the charting software. So the course is like a freebie with it if you think about it, but you're going to learn. And I hope you apply it. That's going to be up to you. Take a look at this. Remember, you can move your cursor to the top up here. That's the way to do it when you want to get to the website. The other part is iraepstein.com. The word is education. You'll see it right at the top. Take a look at the courses. Take care. Welcome. I'm Ira Epstein, and I'm here to talk about my enhanced Bollinger Band course. Now, many of you have taken my regular charting course, and if not, you might think you know something about Bollinger Bands. As you know, Bollinger Bands are an algorithm designed to keep the market trading within it 95% of the time. And on a chart, it will offer on the top part resistance, on the bottom support, and the idea is the market will travel within them. We know that sometimes it latches onto that band, goes up or goes down. Well, how do you play with that? Can you pyramid the positions off that type of thinking? Well, I've applied all three of these into 13 different videos that teach you my concept of it. And from that concept, you're able to work with weekly charts and or daily charts. The 13 videos, each about 7 minutes long. The idea here is not to put you in school forever, but to teach. Now, if you haven't tried my complete futures research, I throw that in as well. Whether you've tried this or not, I think it's worth taking a look at. I think you're going to learn something from there. That research, by the way, covers twice daily market updates for you and access to what I call window envelope numbers, which I think are very important when looking at these Bollinger Bands. The next part is a trial to our charting software so you can make your charts look the same way that mine do. It's that simple. Where do you go with it and how do you get all this? It's simple. You go to our website, www.iraepstein.com. If you go to the word education, everything you need is answered there. You can also call my staff. They'll be happy to help you get set up. I'm Ira Epstein, on the road to your education.